This is the demonstration video for the 747 Wheat Germ Saucer cookies. Cooking principles. 1. Made using the modified cake method. The conventional cake method is as follows. Step 1. Cream fat with sugar. Step 2. Beat in egg and any flavorings. Step 3. Alternately add dry ingredients with liquid ingredients to creamed mixture. Dry, liquid, dry, liquid, dry. But this cookie is made with the modified cake method with no alternating step. We alternate the flour usually in a cake, but with cookies, they're usually a soft or stiff dough, so instead we just add the flour 1/3 at a time. Cake batter is usually a liquidy batter or a pour batter, and therefore has a higher liquid ratio. When you add it 1/3 of a time, you control how much you mix, and that way you don't overactivate the gluten, causing a tough and chewy cookie. Cooking principle number 2. 747s are an example of a molded cookie. Cookies are classified according to the way they are formed. There are 6 types of cookies. 1. Bar or sliced cookies are made in a rectangular cake pan and sliced into pieces after they are baked. Some bar cookie examples would be a brownie, a blondie, or even the classic Canadian example of the Nanaimo bar. 2. Drop cookies. Drop cookies are made from a dough soft enough to be placed by spoonfuls on a cookie pan. This kind usually spreads during baking, so space must be allowed to prevent them from touching. A popular variety of a drop cookie includes chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin. 3. Mold cookies. Mold cookies are made from dough a little stiffer than either a bar or drop cookie. This dough is usually molded with the fingers to produce the desired shape and then placed on the pan for baking. Examples of a mold cookie can include the peanut butter cookie that's pressed with a fork, the rolled oat cookie that's shaped with the hand, or even the thumbprint cookie, where you press your thumb into the cookie and put a piece of jam after it's been baked. 4. Refrigerated cookies. These are usually made from a stiff cookie dough and then formed into a long roll and chilled for several hours until the fat has become very firm. Later, you use a sharp knife to cut them into thin slices. We usually find these kind of cookies in grocery stores sold as convenient items. They're good when you want to make cookies at a later time. 5. Rolled cookies. Rolled cookies are formed by rolling a chilled stiff dough on a lightly floured surface. When the dough is cut with various cookie cutters or even a knife to make a desired shape, they are baked and then afterwards decorated with bits of fruit, nuts, or even icing. Examples of rolled cookies can be our shortbread cookies or even sugar cookies. 6. Press cookies. They're usually made from a rich stiff dough that has been packed into a special cookie press. Then they're forced through shaped discs onto an ungreased cookie pan. The shapes and sizes vary by changing the discs and pressing out more or less dough to form each cookie. The most classic form of pressed cookies known as the spritz. So the 747 is an example of a mold cookie because their final shape is caused by you molding it with your hands. Here you see I'll put it down using a 50 ml scoop, and then using a saucer and a piece of wax paper, I will flatten the cookie and then using my fingertips create their perfectly symmetrical round shape. Nutrition. High in carbohydrates, starch, and sugar. Carbohydrates are responsible for supplying the body with energy, sparing protein, and assisting the utilization of fats. Using wheat germ adds B vitamins. B vitamins help the body turn carbohydrates into energy, help with normal growth and development of the body, maintain good appetite and normal digestion, and is essential for the proper functioning of your nervous system. Using coconut adds fiber. A high fiber diet is important Fiber normalizes bowel movements. It helps maintain bowel health by reducing your risk at colon cancers. It lowers cholesterol levels by reducing blood pressure and inflammation. It helps control blood sugar as fiber foods slowly absorb into the blood than other foods. It also will reduce your risk at developing type 2 diabetes. It helps achieve healthy weight as high fiber foods make you feel full for longer. And it's been proven to help you live longer as it reduces the risk of dying from cardiovascular diseases. Using quick oats adds fiber and B vitamins. Ingredients: 125 milliliters all-purpose flour. Flour will provide structure for our cookie. Gluten is the protein found within flour that, when combined with a liquid, will form strong elastic strands. Heat from the oven will harden this protein, creating the structure for our cookie. 2 milliliters baking powder. Baking powder is a leavening agent that, when combined with a liquid, will produce carbon dioxide gas that is needed to help leaven our cookies. 1 milliliter of salt. Salt enhances natural flavors found within any baking product. Today it will help increase the flavor of our wheat germ, our oats, our coconut, or even our chocolate chips. 110 milliliters of wheat germ. Wheat germ is the part of the wheat kernel that's responsible for helping the plant reproduce and spawn new wheat. It's a great source of vegetable protein along with fiber and other healthy fats. High source of vitamin B and vitamin E as well. Wheat germ also has a peanut butter-like flavor to it, adding a nutty kind of quality to our cookie. 30 milliliters of flaked coconut. Coconut adds a lot of fiber and flavor to our cookie today, and it also adds a lot of texture as the flakes tend to be larger and more coarse. Now you can choose between using sweetened or unsweetened coconut, but know this: using sweetened coconut means adding more sugar and more moisture, making your cookie a little bit more soft. Using unsweetened coconut tends to make our cookie a little bit drier and chewier. 30 milliliters of quick oats. Oats are full of carbohydrates, fiber, and B vitamins. They also add a chewy texture to the cookie. 80 milliliters of semi-sweet chocolate chips. Chocolate chips will be an extra flavor amongst our high fiber cookie today. It will give you a chocolate taste without being overly sweet. 80 milliliters of soft margarine. This solid fat will actually interfere with the development of gluten, keeping your cookies a little bit more softer. Using margarine also is better because it has less water than butter, keeping your cookies from spreading on the pan as they bake and holding their shape well. 65 milliliters of sugar. Sugar sweetens our cookie but also will provide color. As the sugar caramelizes in the oven, it will turn the bottom edge of our cookie golden brown, and this will help indicate to us whether it's done baking or not. 65 milliliters of brown sugar. Brown sugar will help sweeten our cookie, add additional color to the overall appearance of the cookie, and provide an additional flavor of molasses. Half a large egg. Egg will not only contribute to the nutritional value of our cookie, but will help bring together several of our ingredients that are really dry and high in fiber. It will also provide the additional liquid needed to help activate our baking powder, as cookies tend to be very low in liquid. 3 milliliters of vanilla. Vanilla will provide extra flavor to our cookie today, adding a subtle flavor that will complement really well with our chocolate chips. These are all the ingredients for the 747 Wheat Germ Saucer cookies. Equipment. For this recipe, you will need measuring equipment, including liquid, dry, and small measures, metal spatula, custard cups, a metal spoon, medium and large mixing bowls, electric mixer, rubber spatula, a metal fork, a sieve, metal pie plate, a wooden spoon, a cookie sheet, a saucer, oven mitts, hot mat, a cooling rack, and finally, A lifter. Method. Bachette stands for the beginning steps that you need to do at the start of your lab. B stands for books and bags. They should be away either at the back of the classroom or under your table. A stands for apron, which you need to put on to help protect your clothing. S stands for sleeves. You need to roll them up past your elbows. H stands for long hair that touches the shoulders that needs to be tied back, or hats that need to be removed. C stands for chairs that should be tucked under your table and out of your way. H stands for hands that should be washed properly for 30 seconds using hot water and soap. E stands for equipment, which you should be getting out as quickly as possible without wasting time. And T stands for the towels that you need to pick up. You need at least 2 dishcloths and 2 tea towels. Step 2. Use oven racks 2 and 4. Preheat oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. Putting your cookies in an oven at a higher temperature will cause them to bake up firmer, faster, and set up in their shape, preventing them from spreading out into a thinner shape. 375 degrees means our cookies will be thicker with chewier bottoms. Step 3. Grease cookie sheet with shortening. Shortening doesn't brown as quickly as butter or margarine because the shortening has a higher smoke point. Typically, cookies are really high in fat, but the 747 has less fat and more ingredients that are higher in fiber and drier, so we need to grease our cookie sheet today. We're using shortening because it doesn't tend to burn, causing our cookies to have a lovely golden brown color on the bottom. Dip your piece of wax paper into the shortening and spread a thin layer along the bottom of the cookie sheet. Make sure you cover the whole entire area because if you do not, the cookies will stick to the sheet, making it hard for them to release to the cooling rack. Step 4. In a large bowl, cream margarine with electric mixer until the margarine is soft. Gradually, a little at a time, cream in sugar, and then brown sugar. This is the first step of the cake method. Just a reminder, we should measure our margarine in a liquid measure filled with 100 milliliters of cold water. Gently, using 2 spoons, push margarine underneath the water line until it raises up by 80 milliliters or until the measurement reads 180 milliliters. Then, pour off all the water and put the margarine into your large bowl. First, take your time to cream the margarine using the electric mixer. We really need to make sure it lightens up, adds in lots of air, and becomes light, soft, and fluffy. This will help us dissolve the sugar easier. Then, little at a time, slowly add in the white sugar. The white sugar takes a long time to slowly dissolve its crystals into the margarine. I usually like to test it using the rubber spatula. If I can hear the sound of sand scraping against the bowl, I know the sugar hasn't fully dissolved, and I'll keep going with the electric mixer. When I'm satisfied that most of the sugar has dissolved, then I'll add in the brown sugar. A reminder that when you measure brown sugar, you need to pack it into the dry or small measures that you are using. Make sure the shape comes out firm. That way you know you've compressed all the air out of the brown sugar and your measurement is most accurate. The brown sugar doesn't take that long to cream into the mixture as it is more full of moisture and easier to melt. Step 5. Beat egg in a custard cup. Divide egg evenly into 2 custard cups, one for the other pair at your table. When you go to crack the egg, crack on the countertop. Doing so means you're less likely to have little bits of shell fly into the custard cup. If you do notice any shell, use the other half of the egg to gently scoop it out. Then, make sure you mix really well with a fork. We need both components of the egg, both the egg yolk and the egg white, to help act as a binder in our cookie. Then, you need to divide the egg in half. Eggs are roughly 60 to 70 milliliters of liquid, so you need to measure out approximately 30 or 35 mils into each custard cup. Step 6. Add half egg and vanilla into cream mixture. Beat until cream mixture is smooth, no lumps, light and fluffy. This is the second step of the cake method. One thing is, when you go to measure your vanilla, make sure you measure not directly over the bowl. As you see here in my demonstration, if it accidentally splashes, you're less likely to get extra in the bowl and have it go on your countertop. Just make sure you clean up all your spills immediately. Then use your electric mixer and really thoroughly make sure this mixture is really creamed together well. We want to make sure it's all soft, fluffy, full of air, and ready to go for our dry ingredients. Step 7. Sift flour, measure, and sift again into a medium bowl. Combine flour with the remaining 6 dry ingredients: baking powder, salt, wheat germ, flaked coconut, quick oats, and semi-sweet chocolate chips. Make sure you sift your flour, not only to remove lumps that might be hidden within the flour bucket, causing texture issues with our cookie, but to add in extra air to help make our cookies light and fluffy and tender. When you're done sifting your flour, place it into the medium bowl and begin adding all the rest of your dry ingredients. Now, most of our dry ingredients cannot be used through the sifter. They are too large to go through the holes, and they need to just be gently combined in the end with the wooden spoon. Step 8. With a wooden spoon, add dry ingredients 1/3 at a time to the creamed mixture, mixing well after each addition. This is the 3rd step of the conventional cake method, is to alternately add the dry ingredients to the liquid ingredients with the cream mixture, beginning and ending with dry ingredients. That prevents curdled appearance, especially when it's a cake. This is where cookies differ from cakes. They do not have liquids to alternate with their dry ingredients. We are still going to follow the same method though. This helps us prevent from over stirring and over mixing, which would activate the gluten, causing a really tough, hard cookie, which is a texture we do not desire. By going 1/3 of a time, it means you're only going to stir until the dry ingredients have been combined with the creamed ones. Go slow. Make sure you do little bits at a time until all that dry flour has been absorbed into the mixture. Step 9. Place dough in 50 milliliter amounts onto the greased cookie sheet, evenly spaced apart. Cookies should be all the same size. Now, when you put the cookies down, make sure they're equal distance apart on the cookie sheet. We want to use a scoop because it helps us keep a uniform amount in each cookie. You can also use a cookie scoop if you have one at home. Step 10. Press lightly down with wax paper in a small plate or saucer. Make sure sides are even and straight up. We want to use a piece of wax paper to help press down on the cookie, or else the cookie might accidentally stick to the saucer and rip and pull apart. Now, if you notice that is starting to happen, trade the wax papers out with a fresh one. If you need to, use your hands to help bring the cookie together. This is your chance to make it all nice and flat along the surface. If you taper the edges, those are less likely to spread out while they're baking in the oven, causing it to burn a little. We want a uniform thickness cookie. Step 11. Stake your cookie sheets in the oven to ensure even heat circulation. Bake 10 to 15 minutes or until lightly browned along edges and bottom of the cookies. It is always best to go for the lower time limit. At the 10-minute mark, you can check on your cookies. If they have any kind of shine to them along the top, you know that the egg in the cookie has not been cooked and will need an additional 5 more minutes. Step 12. Let cookies cool 2 to 3 minutes on the cookie sheet before transferring cookies to a cooling rack to cool completely. It is important that we cool the cookies a little bit on the cookie sheet. The fat in the cookies make them too soft to move right away, and they would more likely break apart before you even make it to the cooling rack. Let them set up and have the fat firm up before you try to move them. Also remembering that leaving them on the cookie sheet, they are continuing to bake. The cookie sheet is as hot as the oven that you pulled it from, so it will keep browning on the bottom. Then, once they're firm enough to be able to move, put them on the cooling rack so they can cool completely. This recipe yields 6 to 8 cookies, or 9 to 12 cookies if you're a group of 3. Test for doneness. 1. Edges are just starting to brown. Standards. 1. Tender. This means you didn't overmix your cookie, making the gluten become overactivated, causing a tough, hard cookie. We want to make sure it has the soft, chewy texture that is associated with all of our ingredients. 2. Lightly brown on edges and bottom of cookies. This means that you didn't overbake the cookie, you left it a reasonable amount of time in the oven and to continue to bake and cool down on the sheet without burning them. 3. Pleasant flavor. This means you took great care in measuring your ingredients, making sure that everything was well balanced in your cookie. These are all the standards for the 747 wheat germ saucer cookie. Let's take a look at my demonstration cookies. First, they're all uniform in shape and size, meaning they have the same amount of dough. On the bottom is golden brown and it has a lovely shade, not burnt. You can see that it's also brown on just the bottom edge only. Also, the cookie is the same thickness, about 1 cm in size, all the way around the cookie without tapered edges. These 747 cookies will help add an extra dietary fiber and satisfy that sweet tooth. I hope you enjoyed our demonstration today. Happy baking, and thanks for watching.